Sego Sewaguego, hello and welcome to the Great Law of Peace and Treaties of the Northeast, a panel produced in collaboration with the American Indian Community House as part of the First Peoples Week at the Green Space. The mission of the American Indian Community House, AICH, is to improve and promote the well-being of American Indian community and to increase the visibility of American Indian cultures in urban settings in order to cultivate awareness, understanding, and respect. AICH is a 501c3 not-for-profit organization serving the needs of Native Americans residing in New York City. AICH was founded in 1969 by Native American volunteers as a community-based organization mandated to improve the status of Native Americans and to foster intercultural understanding. AICH membership is currently composed of Native Americans from 72 different tribes. Native American migration between urban centers and reservations demonstrates the interrelatedness of all Native Americans, and from this reality emerges the recognition that our issues and concerns are truly shared. My name is Iakowi. This means she gathers and organizes people. This name was given to me by clan mothers in the Longhouse through a naming ceremony. Ludinashoni, people of the Longhouse, or more widely known as the Iroquois Confederacy. I'm a Mohawk mom who resides in Akwesasne Mohawk territory, where I was born and raised. Following in my skywalking family footsteps to New York City, also known as Manhattan, homelands of the Lenape, I steward knowledge passed down to me by my grandparents and traditional leaders of my nation. I carry knowledge of Northern and Southern tribal art, fashion, business, politics, and leadership. Completing multiple degrees and certifications, I have had the opportunity to study in Montreal, New York City, Shanghai, Beijing, and Hong Kong. Throughout my life and at a very early age, I experienced Canadian Army tanks and heavy artillery in my backyard, blockades on my street, and no school due to military occupation in Akwesasne Mohawk territory for months at a time. From the Oka crisis in the 1990s to Akwesasne and Ganawage being under siege by the Canadian military of up to 5,000 troops, I, as a young child, and we, Haudenosaunee, remained in unity like a bundle of arrows, unbreakable together. Raised in this way, my outlook was conditioned to naturally apply the same energy and conviction when it comes to who we are and what is most important. From the great law of peace, the two-row wampum, and the maintenance of the good mind principles and the simple tenets of the warrior society, carrying the burden of peace and freedom together in unity, awareness, and resistance, we remain and persist unmoved. As a younger adult, and to this day, I apply the same energy. I organized and rallied movements in tandem from Akwesasne to New York City in accordance with the I Don't Know More, two-row wampum campaign renewal, pipeline resistance, anti-racism, climate justice, defunding, no DAPL, no new jails, Indigenous sovereignty, and Black liberation movements. Today, being in my second year as executive director of the American Indian Community House, and through a multitude of other institutions and organizations, I further my commitments through targeted actions, open dialogues, teaching, solution-driven programming, stewardship, advocacy, activism, and leadership. I am also a maker, a designer who specializes in jewelry, regalia, shoes, and clothing, and the founder of Mohawk Coterie and Griot Couture. Nyawat Goa all for being present, listening, and sharing space with us. Tonight, I am joined by Loran Thompson. He is somebody who has always been a leader, a traditional leader in my nation. I want to first start with Ahandiwa Gawila Dekwa, words before all else. And I want to ask Loran if you could share with us and recite this and tell us what this means. Nyawa.
Ante to wata so kana wala do so and the what kawe then the china the what the you got the what the so that the now the you got the what the kato kana wala do so and the what kawe na yo to kne you got ni ku then and oya then the what continue chinioska chiniji yo e nisu chinu na jin what the one ya jun ja the tin ye ti ni sta ye ti na to ko ne ga de wa he ne ne atu jagot ka wa hake cha ta ga wo de ya go yo ta wa na ya wa sko na do wa nu nyo hake ne ne ji ko ta mo ye je ya ta ke ne ne o ne ne ga yo ne te yo na ta mo ye cha ta ga go de ta ye na tra hake mo na ya to sa ai do tu ka ya ke ka ne ho o ni ta ye na ka wa hake to sa ai do wa wistos ke ya te go kaya taken haksara renot ka wahake negativa oni projection waratu tanu ne oni ka ne ka sua ne yuwa nya tana wahta yuweza yotsna ka tekyo jihunjate ne oni projection waratu tanu je ando dahragetsko kaeri ne warake tanu ne rati wera sia bia tiesta kwechi rudio ta ka te skono lununi jinuna di wata woye ase sununi chika hegarunyo chonjate nene sakuti heganudos nene yuwa testa kwa harado nega de wahe projetin warate dano nene oya nene ojistano kwa so ne yunki ga na jiniji di kwa tamoe chonjate ne wahe nene yo weza yi anju kina tung hase to jiwasu da tenyu jin kwa tamoe uniji amse to wahe jin dot yung kwa tas kwa hrut dai jachin warato da oya nana adomo nene sukwaya tisu ne ga de wahe nene yori wana no ne o nene ga satstan sara go te sakowi na ho te nene yona das nena yona da wo jo jade chat what is ra ke so nene ona no ne rotorissa ne ne kok des haga ne tiniji jogata wo ye jo jade ne ga de wa ndi to to we yo to za chi to wan wara to nai to ha yo wa ni go ane to niko now that could go on if you have a good speaker, uh, knowledgeable. It could go on for an hour, hour and a half to touch on all of creation and the responsibilities. I just made it short, and I combined a lot of the different areas. First of all, I gave greetings to each and every one of us that are watching and participating. Uh, we're all strong and healthy as the day goes on. And we give one mind to that. And then we look at where we're roaming around. We call it our Mother Earth. And on Mother Earth gives all of the energy to what is growing on Mother Earth. She keeps them alive. It's very important to us that we never forget the power, the strength that she gives each and every day so that we, as the people that were put on her body, are sustained happily. Okay. And then we move on to the waters that are so important, the blood of our Mother Earth that needs to be respected. It, the water goes through the earth, the ground, and is purified. And then we can drink that to quench our thirst. And we use that for many things. And we're thankful that it is still pure enough for us to drink and be healthy. Within that, there are other species, and we gave thanks to, regardless how small they are, we gave thanks to all of the different species of fish in the waters. Okay, and then the animals that are in the woodlands, the underground, wherever they might be, they're all giving of themselves in helping Mother Earth stay strong and healthy. They are they have been given certain instructions on how to live in this world, just as us. They are still respecting that. They are still giving us food and clothing and shelter, sometimes depending on what you make. And we're thankful for that, that they still give of themselves for that. So be it our minds. And then we put the four winds and the thunders together. They keep the winds clean. They spread the seeds. They do many things that we don't really understand totally why it happens all of a sudden, but they're doing the work, and we appreciate that creation has not pulled back the powers that they have been given. We are thankful to hear the thunders in the spring during the summer, and it's a beautiful thing to know that they are still respecting their instructions. And then we went on to the stars. When you're out in the wilderness, you look up into the stars, and if you know the stars, it'll lead you back to your home. You can't get lost if you know your stars. And we're glad that they give enough light in working with our grandmother, the moon, who has an awful lot of energy and power, and grandmother moon, along with the star, work with the women in keeping the world going the way it's supposed to be. That's how much energy grandmother moon has. Okay, we gave that a whole lot of real strong thank you there. Okay, then creation, that which has created us and created the world for us. We turn our minds to whatever it may be. Today's world, we say it's a male figure, but in the language, it's a female figure, because we don't know if it's a male or female. So we always say female in the creation. So, but a lot of people don't understand the language anymore, so they don't catch that part of it. Okay, Yoe Aniso is that which has created. Okay, so that's what put this world in place for us, and we are thankful that the power that put this world in place does not find it in her power to pull that strength back from someplace to us that we would feel a need. So be it our minds. We give thanks to her. Yeah, that's short. That was really short. Okay.
I'll go up.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we started in that way, mainly because when we gather, I think it's most important to be present and have our minds framed in a way that we're thankful and we're present in gratitude for all things around us
Mm-hmm.
and within creation, as opposed to just more materialistic aspects of our lives. So I just want to share that with everybody. Thank you for sharing that and reciting. Yeah, so I also have a short bio for Loran that me and a friend put together. We might need to be fact checked. But I want to start out with your name, Ganasalage. Is that how you pronounce it?
Kanasaraken.
Ganasalag.
Yeah, Kanasaraken. The tongue. Okay, the feather on a bird, the center feather looks like the tongue. Okay,
Uh-huh.
that's what it's describing. A
Uh,
white one.
okay.
Kanasara, white feather.
Okay. So I'll just go through this bio really quickly. I just want to mention that you have a long political history fighting for the rights of our people. You made the historical trek to the 1977 Geneva Conference, which first proclaimed Indigenous Peoples Day and laid the groundwork for the UN Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. This is from my perspective. He was a participant in the Unity Caravan, which traveled North America, teaching about the importance of American Indian spiritual, cultural, and political survival in the way that seeded the Red Power movement in the 1960s and 70s and the Indigenous rights movement. You also held a traditional leadership title and a role in the Oka crisis on behalf of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, or rather Haudenosaunee more specifically, in the 1990s. And I wanted to mention that just because I was there as a young child. So I just want to make sure that was thrown in there. Yeah, I was a young child and I saw you just like, yeah, you were like hero status at that time for me. Um, you have represented Native peoples at the UN and spoken in various forums in social, political, and economical matters in regards to Indigenous sovereignty. You sat in the Grand Council of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy for many years while also serving as Bear Clan sub-chief on the local Mohawk Council, Men's Council leadership, and or the Warrior Society. A fluent speaker in Ganyageha Mohawk language, and you have been a ceremony keeper since the 1960s, correct?
Right, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
all
yeah,
these things.
yeah, it's the four ceremonies. Yeah. Uh, Today they call it faithkeeper, but that's not what it is in the language. It's ceremonial keeper.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Excited.
Hmm.
So I want to first start with we're going to go through a series of questions. And the first one is can you share with us or tell us a little bit of the creation story before we move on to the Guyana Let Goa, please?
Yes, yes, we could do that. Um, First, I will say we have to all understand that the creation story as we know it is a story that we tell to our children, okay? So that they will have an understanding of how we got here. But as you grow older, then you realize how the story interprets to real life, okay? So the peacemaker, the tree that was in the sky world, okay? Man took care of that tree by himself. And there was a woman, young woman, that had to go on a journey. And there was a man that guided her to that journey. And he told her certain things to do and to not to do. Okay. And one of them was to not to talk to no one on her journey and to bring seeds with her. Okay. And she did. So when she started on her journey to that tree, it was uncommon at that time for the woman to push herself onto a man, but that's what she did. Okay. And she helped him. One day, something came up and he had to leave. So he asked her to take care of the tree and gave her instructions. So when he came back, apparently she didn't follow the instructions the way he had given it to her. And he got so angry that he uprooted the tree. Some say that he pushed her into the hole. Some say that she came so close to the edge of the hole that the ground that she was standing on broke off and she fell into the hole. And as she fell, she had the corn, okay, already in her little purse. As she fell, she reached out to try to save herself and she grabbed tobacco. We call it which we burn at ceremonies, okay? She brought that with her. As she was falling in through the darkness, all of a sudden she seen this water, all water. And then on that water there was birds, okay? Geese are good sized birds. So when the birds back in that days, they said that they could communicate, okay? So they seen something falling from the sky. So they all decided to go up and meet whatever it was. And they all flew together closely and she landed on their back. And they brought her to this world, which was all water. So they summoned the turtle, the big sea turtle, and they placed her on the turtle's back. Okay. As time went on, she's going around. She's getting older now, and don't forget she was pregnant as she came through. She was pregnant, okay? And when she got here, she had a baby. That baby went on to have twins, okay? The sea life around her, the bird life around her, were helping her survive. The otter, the beaver, all of the animals that died, they brought up dirt to put on the back of the turtle, and that's why we call it Turtle Island today, because that's where the dirt was placed. That's where we were placed. So as time goes on, those two boys that she had, they're gonna we Sawiskara and Tarun Yawaku, okay? Those two brothers grew up, and the the mother favored the one of them, okay, more than the other. But as they grew up with knowing that, but one of them was peaceful and wanted to create, okay. So as time went on, that's what he did. He created, and he says, I want to create a human being. So he went to the ocean had, that had been washing up against a turtle now. Okay, so they took the clay. They took the clay and he made a little doll, and he brought it to life. Okay, and his brother was watching, and he tried to do the same thing. He kind of got jealous. Okay, he wanted to do the same thing, so he took the foam from the ocean as it's coming ashore. He took that foam and he made his little doll, but he couldn't bring it to life. So he had to ask his brother to help him bring it to life. Okay. So that's how that was created right there. Yeah, human beings. Okay. I guess that's a four colors. Uh, in the end, it winds up four colors. Okay. But they turn around and now they have to make a place for these two to live. So that's when the brothers went into the world at that time and putting in different plants, putting in different animals, putting whatever is needed. And the two brothers were watching and learning how to survive in what was being created for them. Okay. As time went on, they had broken into families. Okay. They uh, had a nation, I guess. Nation of families. That's what they call them today, right? And today, people look back and they say, when those two brothers and their the families they created looked into the world, they saw how they needed to work together with that world in order to survive nicely. They had to respect the world, and it would respect them. And that's where the four sacred ceremonies that I talked about in the beginning come from. The ancestors saw the values at different time in the seasons. You do different ceremonies in the seasons to give thanks to a special plant, a special animal, whatever you do at that particular time. Your ceremonial keepers are in charge to make sure that those are never lost. They are always teaching the younger children and the families never to forget those ceremonies. Because if we forget, then all of the duties that they have, they're going to start forgetting what their duties are to us, is what we're taught. Okay. So they go on into the world. Now there are many, many families. Okay. And there came a time when there was issues between the families. There was a lot of fighting going on, almost like the way it's happening today in the world. There's a lot of fighting going on. And what happened is that there was a family, a Mohawk family, that didn't like what was happening around them. Okay. So they went to up north and they settled in with what became the Peacemakers uh, people. Okay. They started a family up there. And as he grew up, as the young boy grew up, he had these abilities and the interest of his peers. And what the older people noticed is that he kept disappearing with the young people. So they snuck wherever they followed them wherever they were going. And he was teaching them how to sing. He was teaching them different things about what's around them and all of that. It was really interesting to them. And that's where the seven dancers come from, the Dipper. Okay, he sang the song and he told them don't look back. Okay, one looked back and he came out of the canoe and the rest are the Dipper. Okay, but that at that time there was a time when he told them that he was here for a mission, on a mission to bring peace to the people. Okay, so the story goes, he start making a canoe. And as the people were watching him, they said it's never going to float. It's going to be too heavy because he was carving it out of a stone, a big stone. But as time went on, it did float, and that's what he used to go across the lake. Once he was coming to the other side of the lake, there was someone going along the shore, and he pulled up beside them, and he asked them, uh, I'm looking for the meanest people uh, in this area. And oh, he says, that's not hard. He says, you go east. He says, the Mohawks live to the east. He says, they're mean. They're mean people. They're war-like people. Okay, so he went east. And along the way, there's things that happen. And one of the things is that he met a man sitting at a little fire talking to himself. And he was making strings. You know, along the marshy area, sandy area, you get those little green tubular plants. They have 1 inch sections. That's what he was taking apart, and he was making strings out of it. And he says, if ever I come onto someone that has gone through the heaviness that I have gone through, I would say these words. And he'd make a string and he would put those words into those strings, all different strings. That's where today your condolence of the Iroquois Confederacy, the 14 strings are all recited at that condolence to make it official. It's Iakowi, his name was, and he lost daughters in the Onondaga territory to what uh, a, a very strong, wicked medicine man, I'll say. Okay, a wizard in today's world. Okay, a bad man anyway. Well, he did things to his daughters, and his daughters passed. So now he's in mourning, walking by himself. So the peacemaker at that time liked what he heard and liked what he saw. So he shared with him what he was working on. And they wound up working together to go into Mohawk country to, to talk to the Mohawks to accept the peace. People are saying in English, they say it's the great law of peace, okay? But in the language, it doesn't say that. In the language, it's Gayanere Goa, okay? Yoyanere is in there, something that's nice, huge, something nice, okay? And the path, and a path, okay? When you take one step, it's Joyana. When you take a bunch of them over and over in that same path, you have a path to follow. And that's Guyana Goa. And the Yudiane, clan mothers, and Rudiane, that's a hard word to interpret because a, a chief tells you what to do. In the Guyana de Goa, he doesn't tell you what to do. See, he works for you. You tell him what to do. As a clan member, that's where you get your voice. Okay. That's what the Peacemaker taught the Mohawks. And the Mohawks liked what they heard. After he explained everything and he told the women to go into the woods and to tell him what's the first animal you saw. So when they came back and they told him, he said, that's your clan. From now on, all your children are going to be that same clan as you hold. The women. The women hold the clan. And that's where you get your voice in your clan meetings. I think in the world today, public world today, I think you would call that your town hall meeting. Yeah. But us, it would be a clan meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Because whenever you have an issue, that person brings the issue into the floor of that meeting and educates everybody on that issue, and then everybody discusses that issue, comes back to the meeting again, and they discuss it, and they come to a consensus of what they should decide on that. Now the Peacemaker made in the Mohawks, he made three different separations. Okay, the Bear Clan, Turtle Clan, and the Wolf Clan. I think in the United States they call them Republican and Democrats. Okay,
Sounds.
but them they use the mule and those kind of animals. Okay, we use the deer and the wild, nice animals, right? Okay, but a lot of things happened, but they did accept the Peacemaker's message. Okay, because they were the worst, and because they were the first to accept the message. The Peacemaker made them the foundation of the Confederacy. Okay. Your meetings can't go unless there's all nine of them there. There's supposed to be all nine condoned chiefs sitting at any Grand Council meeting. And today, it is what the Peacemaker was giving to the world is what is needed today. It's not about race. It's not about the color of our skin. It's about how can we help each other? How can we educate each other to give thanks to the beauty of this world? Don't just go out there and cut down the trees just because you want to sell it. Uh, Take all the water out of the lake just because you want to sell it. See, we have to weigh out how we are using this to this creation in order for us to survive in this land on Mother Earth. In short, in short, that's what the law, how it came about amongst us. From the Mohawks, it went to the Oneidas, and then it went to the Onondagas, and there was a problem there because of Adadaho and his sorcerer. Then it went to the Cayugas and the Senecas. Once it got to the Senecas, and this is a big issue, once it got to the Senecas, it was almost like the Mohawks. Okay, they had a problem, and they says, "We got a problem with this uh, message that you're giving us. We have neighbors here. They're always coming at us, attacking us. They're always troublesome. What if they don't want the peace? What do we do?" So the peacemaker thought about that. And he says, "Okay, if that's the issue, here's what I'll do. I will take one man," and he gave him a title, okay? "And he will watch the western door. And I'll take another man, and he will watch the eastern door. And he will work with the men of the nation." Okay. When something bad comes through the door of the longhouse, meaning the western door, eastern door, that man, I will give him a stick. And at the door, I'll put a mat of slippery elm. And when something bad comes through the door, it will slip on that slippery elm. And he will take that stick with the help of the men and toss it out, meaning toss it out of the territory. That's what the Constitution says. But in today's world, because we're using English, the word warrior is used for the men. But in the language, the word describing the men is ragete. Okay, he has a specific job to do to give the women uh, what they need to raise their families in our territory, to protect them. That's their responsibility. And that's today. You look at today, it's sad. You turn on a movie and it's all guns and guns and guns and putting different races down, putting each other down. It's all negative. And our children are watching all of this. What is it going to be like? How bad is it going to get when they are the mature adults in the world? They've been taught nothing but hate for each other. That's so negative, and no one says anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. So in other words, I think as far as the Kainalagoa is a very detailed instructions for our people to live in balance and in gratitude, right? Would you?
That's
Yeah.
absolutely right. Living in balance with nature, with one another.
Mhm.
And it's so easy to do if you think about it. Take all your schooling, all your religious teachings, just put it aside and look at each other as equal. Help each other. Don't use each other.
Yeah, I think that I have a lot of friends who are just allies and non-natives who have been sort of in a study group with me and just going over the the Great Law of Peace or the Guyana Goa in different ways. We've been, reading books like The Basic Call to Consciousness, and also just listening to Haudenosaunee traditional leadership tell creation stories and really combine the lessons and values and philosophies together in beautiful ways that make sense in a way that you do. So thank you for sharing. And I just want to ask if is there any misinterpretations out there that we should know about or look out for? And or where should we look to find these instructions for the audience? listening?
That's a good question because there's so much programs out there today, government programs, and the people that are in those programs, in order to keep their job, are adding a little bit, adding to the point where the old people don't recognize the message any longer. So when you're in those forums, use your mind, use your mind, and Guyana Go teaches us, if it's real, believe it. If you see it, feel it, you can taste it, it's real. You can believe it. But if it isn't, then just put it aside. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me think of something that I have been going over. I'm studying the Beaver Wars and trade from the 1600s to like the early 1800s, and there was some sort of explanations of the confusion between what's real and what's not real in regards to owista, to money.
Mm,
Like that is not real. That is really has no value, but we're conditioned to believe it does.
yes,
You know,
yes.
so that's where that imbalance occurs between these original instructions and living in balance and harmony with creation, um, and to the latter of like capitalism and colonialism, where you know the value inlays in objectivity, possession, and money.
Hmm, hmm.
You
When
know,
when our people first were given the bags of money after the agreement was made, 50%. Okay, the crown sent bags of gold and silver to them. Well, when it was given to our people, they took the silver and then they skipped it on the water. They see who could throw it into the river the furthest. Okay, because they didn't know what it was worth. It didn't mean nothing to them. See, so the queen's uh, representative took back to the queen, and this is well, we can't have that. I mean, this is valuable metal they're throwing away here. So Crown at that time put in place what they called Federal Indian Trust Fund money.
mhm, yeah,
So 50% of all of the resources that were taken from our land was put into this trust. And that trust is still going today, but it's been from the Crown of Great Britain to the Canadian side and to the American side, Indian affairs on both sides. They control that trust fund money. And Indians have to ask and write proposals to get their own money. And then when they get their own money, then along comes with it are all of the American Canadian laws,
the iron hand.
which, yeah, the iron hand, which shouldn't be there. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's our money.
yeah,
Yeah,
and just sort of like
yeah,
another reason why we always fight not just for freedom but our sovereignty.
yes, 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 exactly. Our sovereignty is worth more than that money that's up there.
Hmm.
Yeah. Many of our people are poor in some eyes, but are filthy rich in cultural teachings. You go up north, they still speak their language. They still do what their ancestors did. You come to Iroquois country, and the greater majority of them don't speak their language anymore because we were hit with residential schools. They
Yeah,
pulled a, they pulled our children forcibly right out of our homes. And many of them were killed in those homes. Never came home.
yeah. My a couple of my grandparents were in the residential schools, as well as my mother and her siblings had experiences in and out of residential schools and then onto missionary schools where they were then also had abusive afflictions set upon them throughout their elementary experience, elementary school experience.
Hmm, hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of our people in our region are also in the midst of a class action lawsuit, I believe.
Yes, they are.
Day school, yeah, yeah, the day school lawsuit against Canada. Yeah,
Yeah, survivors of the resident schools. Oh, some of the stories are terrible uh, that they hold. Oh,
I think in the idea behind, for those of you listening, the idea behind the residential school was to kill the Indian, keep the man.
yes, that
They
was their
want to
whole plan. Yeah,
basically empty out our culture, our language, and basically our spirits, and reform us into something that could fit in Western society,
hmm
not sensually, of course. And I think oftentimes that's where a lot of misinterpretations occur when it comes to
yes,
our traditional teachings due to the loss of language. So
yes.
that's why I again extend my gratitude and appreciation for people like you who have been able to uphold those teachings and those traditions to hand down to the next generations. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
I was lucky. I was lucky. My father was a condole chief for years, and my mother was a clan mother. Okay, and he did a lot of studying, and he listened to all these old people that he traveled around those circles in, and he brought that home to us. And he was a hands-on type of parent. Okay, we felt it when he said, "Don't do that." I said, you know,
Yeah.
but we remember, okay, which I believe is lacking in today's world, the discipline that is needed to make sure that our children know how to respect each other as well as older people, needy people. Respect them, don't put them down. They need to be taught all of that
Mhm.
so that we'll have a better world to live in. Okay? That's what my father was all about, respect.
That's good. Yeah, foundations matter.
Yes.
When especially it's more difficult when, say, your parents had gone through residential schools or the 60s scoops or are disconnected to our people. I
hmm
find that, there's a lot of folks out here who don't have that foundation to really pass on to their children so they understand the values and how to live in balance and in gratitude, just because they don't understand the concepts of the Gana let goa, you
Right.
know
Right.
being from parents from the residential school experience. When I was young, I was brought up in the church. So from there, like from a very young age, my ista, my mother, Ganastaji, she decided to basically decolonize me,
hmm
for our next generations to come, which is also a way in which my daughters are raised as well, but from the jump. Whereas I was basically, I went back to the longhouse maybe like 12 years old. However, I did grow up with grandparents that spoke the language all day, every day.
hmm
I
hmm
spoke it for a while till I went on to public schools off reserve. But I had the opportunity to learn about the game of lacrosse, which came from our people, which is also the creator's game, a medicine game for our men, and also basket weaving, and just the journeys that they went on. Um, and yeah, so I think going through that decolonial sort of pathway into creating a better future is also something valuable. But for my daughters, I'm grateful for people like you in the Longhouse who have held on to everything. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well.
yo,
You know, there's one thing I'd like to put out there, if anything, rather than me spending a whole week trying to talk to people, I would say look for the Everett Report in New York State Senate. Okay, he was an attorney in Potsdam or Canton. He was an assemblyman, and he was put in charge to find out who owns the land in New York State.
mhm,
So he put a panel together. And as they found the information, different ones were falling, quitting. At the end, he was the only one to give the report. And when he gave the report, the Senate said, well, wait a minute. The Assembly said, wait a minute, we hired you to work for us, not for them, because it's what 300 some pages, okay, and it's got over and over and over. It belongs to the Indians. It belongs to 18.5 million acres belongs to the Iroquois Confederacy. 9.5 million, without a doubt, he said, belongs to the Mohawks. Free and clear, it belongs to them. So look for that. Don't take my word for it. This is one of your own assemblymen doing the research out there in the public, uh, telling you about the land. You know, we opened our arms to the settlers that were coming to our shores. We taught them how to live here. We showed them a lot of things. But the greed and the royal type of living that was in Europe is what they brought. Some of them brought that mindset over here, and that's what's it's making a total circle right now. Right now, we're living in a huge change that's coming about.
Yeah. So we only have about 8 minutes left. I just want to really quickly go over like what would be your perspective on possession of lands as nations? What like from my understanding, one does not possess lands.
No,
You-
no, we if you're using it, if you have use for the land for your family, this is a difficult thing to say in today's world, because when I say it, corporations will move right in and take over the whole country because you gave them the okay. There is no title, there is no ownership. It's not mine. See, all of that stuff would come to play. But as far as individuals here, we come into this world with nothing, and we're going to leave this world with nothing. We were given this world to be happy in, and this world is here to sustain us. Okay, if you have to build a house someplace to spend the summer or whatever, you should be able to do that. But taxation has taken over. Big cities have interests have taken over. Corporate interests have taken over. So we have to turn that around, and the little individual by himself that feels helpless needs to come out and needs to listen to what his interests in this world are. His real interests, not money, nothing to do with money. How are you going to live in this world? Where are you going to sleep? Body. All of that stuff needs to come to surface in all of our interests. Hmm. What happened? I can't hear you.
Sorry, we're close to time. We barely got through all of the questions. Again, I want to just maybe give you a couple of minutes to share any lasting messages that you have for the audience here today. And yeah, everybody seems very grateful in the comment section. And yeah, they're just really, I guess, vibing with your storytelling and knowledge sharing. So if
Yeah,
you want to share for a couple of minutes, please go ahead.
yeah. Well, the old people at the longhouse in all of our ceremonies, they always said, be proud of who you are, regardless what you have, what you don't have. Always be proud of who you are and be respectful of everyone else. That's how you go in through the world. Don't abuse where you are. You come into this and into this ceremony, you're not coming in here to show how loose you are, how strong you are, you, to the people here amongst them. You are coming here to show creation. You are able to move because of the foods that they give you, because of the air that they give you, the water they give you. You are strong and healthy. And look at me, I'm dancing. Man, I'm so happy. That's what you're dancing for, you see? So we have to remember that constantly of all that the natural world gives us, creation. I think we need to remember that too, though. You got to, in the westernized world, it's man, 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 man. Everything is the male, okay? But in
Yeah.
our world, it's the other way around. It's the other
Yeah.
wrong. It's all about the woman, respecting the woman, giving the woman what her family needs, what her clan needs, what the nation needs to protect all of that.
Mhm.
That's what it's all about. Hmm.
Yes. Message of the day. It's all about the women.
That too. That too.
That's the
I,
true
I,
power that they want to hide from us, right?
what was that?
That's the true power that they want to hide from society.
Yes, which is an interesting point. That's the power they're trying to do away with.
Mhm.
They are really trying to abolish that from the world so that the few men that are at the top that have their whole world set up in such a way where they're going to enslave everyone.
Mhm.
Okay. And money is doing a beautiful job at this point in enslaving you. There are many things. 1963, I believe it was, in government, there was a person that read, I think 13, 12 or 13 different issues that they had to work on. And this COVID is one of them that they had to, that was coming, and they're going to be trouble with, and a whole lot of other things. It's on Facebook. It's a recording and somebody reading, but it, it's it's all real. We have to open our eyes and see what's actually happening to us. You know, are we being led down? What is that? Pied Piper, right? The Pied
Yeah.
Piper. Yeah, we have to. Uh, in the Guyana de Goa, it tells over and over and over. Deja dore. You take a subject and you dissect it. You dissect it. Let your mind, your natural mind, not what you were taught. You were streamlined into a certain direction in somebody else's favor. You're going to work the rest of your life for somebody else, okay? But you need to think really positively on what is your direction. Why were you put here in this world? Not just to go to work every day. That's not why we're here.
Mhm.
Raise our family, work together, send a crew out to get the meat, bring them back, and let's all share it. Send another crew to get the medicine, bring them back, and we'll all share it. Different things like that, right?
Yeah. Living in balance with each other.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And also dismantling hierarchies and patriarchy
yes,
and
yeah.
capital.
That's scary. Yeah, the hierarchy. All right.
Yeah.
Agagweni.
Yeah, so we're short on time.
Yeah.
My apologies to everybody. We didn't have time for a Q&A. But I just want to thank you again, Loran Yawant Goa.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you for inviting me. That was
yeah,
nice.
yeah, and
Yeah.
thank you everyone else for joining us tonight. You can check out all of our First Peoples Week programming as well as our digital art platform at firstpeoplesweek.org. Tomorrow, journalist and podcast host Rebecca Nagel leads conversations about Indigenous issues today, from the renaming of Washington football team to the recent Supreme case designated most, sorry, to the recent Supreme case designating most of Oklahoma as tribal land and what this means for everyone. Plug in for this event. Again, Nyawa Goa, everybody, and have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.